So many agencies, isn't it, sir? I want to identify where he comes from specifically, sir.
Property, assets.
Property.
Yes.
So you can understand that, yes, NNPC operates all over this country. We have, in the downstream, we have all the refineries that should fall to your agent, your division. And most of these refineries, our depots across the whole country, from northeast, north central, southeast, southwest, south. There are indications that most of these your properties are no longer of use to anybody, especially to Nigerians. If you can remember, sometimes far back, when the depots were operational, most of your depots are being run by NNPC. But today, they are almost ghosts of themselves, overtaken by weeds, overtaken by grasses, reptiles, abandoned. You see? So now, if we must be fair to ourselves and to taxpayers, what do you think, in your fair mind, we should do to some of these properties? Because I know, you know they are of no use to the country as a whole. I want you to help and be fair in your judgment. Thank you.
That in the terms of the asset management, we are fully aware of what you have just stated, but probably the narrative we got when you came did not indicate that you are not representing both. That's the NAPIMS as managing the offshore assets on behalf of us, and that of the Swamp Creek and that of the ROCs. But being that as it may, the one you manage that you are very familiar with, periodically, how do you review and update your records with their respective status? And are you here with that record as of the inventory, with the record to be submitted to us now? Thank you, sir.
Thank you. You want to respond to that before?
Okay. Questions, yes. If I may start from your question, the assets of these depots and then the refineries, yes, we know because of the operational status of these places, then for now they are really lying fallow. But as the refinery rehabilitation is going on, we're sure very soon, like the depots, at least they will start picking some life. Once the first refinery rehabilitation is through, from that Port Harcourt, we're sure they will be getting products. So those are assets that in due time to come, definitely they will still become useful. And the issue of maybe trying to now say they are kind of a waste now, well, for now, I believe so, but I'm sure I'm not in the position to now say maybe there is a plan to rebuild them or maybe really bring up a business plan to really take care of them. But definitely I know that we are not just like sitting down allowing those assets to go to waste. Then on the deadline to get all the property definitions, and so we have done that. We've really gotten all the inventory of our assets. The only thing is like those few ones that we really cannot be able to access. And why we cannot access them is because we don't have the actual title. So even now as it is, we are making effort to see how do we get something that can give us the authority to go and then get to now say, okay, this is really the extent of what we have as NNPC and government assets. So we are on that, and then it is not like a job without end. We are currently on it, like even if I remember yesterday, I asked about the issue of those assets, and then we have written to our legal to say, okay, what do we do? When the committee was really doing that job, is that they couldn't access some areas because they are mainly from this insecurity areas, so it became very difficult. So people were hiding under that kind of reason of insecurity and then giving us and making us really have tough time. So that's why we are still doing that. But we have a plan to, if we can't do it ourselves, then we now have a plan that is on ground to now say, okay, if we can't do that, then we commission consultants or people that can help us really get what we really require. But in terms of the inventory, yes, we have the actual number. Well, even give or take, we have nearly the number of assets that NNPC have, both between NNPC pension and then the NNPC Properties Limited. So those things are not really left to say they are not. We know them, but it's only that the issue of titles, and some of our assets have been acquired maybe before I was born, 100 years ago or so. But we still have those effort to now see how do we really get them proper titles and other things. So by and large, I think the entire exercise we are doing, definitely we are making that effort. And to say the least, now the NMPC management, about a month ago, there was a retreat, and that retreat was there where we now say, look, okay, the GMD gave the matching order to say, look, pension, value all your assets, and then see those that are really useful, you perfect them. Those that are not, then maybe there are processes. You see how do we now maybe dispose them through a process. Then the ones that are valuable, you can come in through investments to now see how you can add value to this thing. I keep on giving this example of our land in Lagos, that is Lekki. We've finished all the plans to now really commence development of that asset, which will give the company now, let me say NMC a company, revenue. But we're having challenges. We can't access it because all our investment partners are afraid of putting their money. This family will say, we own this land since 1875 and all those things. So it's really giving us but we're doing our best. And we're really determined we must achieve it. By God's grace and with the support of the House, I'm sure we'll get through it. Thank you very much.
All right. In view of the acceptance of about $163 billion gas projects that have been abandoned in the country so far by investors, are you aware of that report?
No.
Ruling right now. All right? All right. In the absence of...
I wanted to know, Mr. Chairman, was there a time the NNPC in the past, within our jurisdiction, has auctioned some of these assets or sold some of these assets in the past? And there's been this rumor that when these properties are being sold, they are being sold to themselves. So is it something that it's possible to look into the processes of sale?
Well, I believe that by the time they furnish us with those inventories, we'll see a lot of what you have talked about. It is possible that, I'm sure that, like I mentioned before, I'm aware that you're selling some of these staff quarters to your staff as permitted by your enabling act. And some of them are equally supposed to be transferred to PIC by PIC mandates. All right? I don't know. PIC, would you like to brief us about your mandate with respect to NNPC properties? That a lot of our assets, or their assets, or the country's assets, are being encroached upon. Many of them have been taken over even by individuals and other corporate organizations and state governments. We hereby, the committee hereby rule that you shall furnish the secretariat of the committee with inventory of all those assets and particularly those ones that have been encroached upon, including the pipelines that are no more in use. Because you recall that the letters we did actually was sent to NAPIMS. So you are going to have to communicate to NAPIMS to furnish those documents to us not later than 1 week. And then the GGM of NAPIMS to appear before the committee with them, okay, with all of you, next week Thursday, with all those documents. And those documents to be furnished on or before that day, so that members can, you know, do a thorough perusal of those documents and see where we can add more to it and remove. So those in support of that ruling, please say aye. Aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it.
Regarding the Kaduna property you mentioned, there is a board approval, as you rightly said, that our act enabled us to actually sell them to the staff. We commenced. However, we had issues along the line with the Kaduna state government. And this has always been the case. There is an authority, a Lagos state authority, I think it got to the Supreme Court, whereby when a federal government asset is being given to individuals, it changes status. The governor of the state now becomes your head lessor. So these are the problems you are having. Soon after we started this, yes, the land use act, that's what I'm saying. So, yeah, the land user has said it, that the governor is in charge. So, but when the federal government is in charge, the governor is kept aside.
That's section 54.
Exactly, sir. Yes, so now, regarding the vacant land you said they were encroached, the federal government gazetted that Kaduna land, and people who are encroaching will definitely lose when the governor of Kaduna State has signed our survey plan. So whatever that is on the land belongs to who purchases that land. So we are not entertaining any fear regarding that issue. So,
so why are you having issues with Lagos State?
Pardon?
Why are you having issues with Lagos State?
No, it was a citation I gave you, sir, on how the federal government assets changes status when it goes into individual's hand. I'm using it as a locus classicus.
Regularization.
Exactly, sir. Yes, exactly. Yeah, but now in Port Harcourt also, there are issues, there are issues, and we are on ground to read that all those, particularly the worry, we get the papers via the judgment we have gotten to make sure that we get them surveyed and then we hit the ground running. So we want to allay your fears that none of those properties which people are currently, laying claim to will definitely go out of government hands. Thank you.
Engineer.
Their assets to now go to the pension fund. So the only assets that are now managed by NNPC properties are assets we tag as operational assets. But I believe the pension colleague here will be able to give us enlightenment on those assets that the chairman is talking about, we selling to our staff and other things. So maybe...
To 22 of the Land Use Act makes the governor the trustee of the people with respect to the lands within the states. However, section 54 of the Land Use Act protects those federal territory within the states. Any land acquired by the federal government for a federal purpose within a state is protected for public use. For public use. When I understand. What the partnership we demand for here, the partnership we now demand for here, is that whenever the federal government, decides to change the usage of such land, then they make whoever is taking over such property to go for regularization. Because there is a Supreme Court judgment that says the states have the power to determine the kind of structures and what have you that you can put within the state. So if you don't do your regularization, they will continue to come up with those. So that's why you need to form that synergy between the federal and the states, so that the two can benefit. Win-win situation for all the parties, And I think that's what the committee is suggesting to you to do. All right? And I believe you do so. All right? All right. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, I only want to, I sought a clarification, sir. I understand that the enabling law citing NNPC empowers it to transfer and sell some of these properties. Is that so? Now,
ab initio, all these organizations, the lands were given to them by the governors for a public use. So when it comes to situations like that, they run back to Mr. President. But they have forgotten that the moment that goes off, the Land Use Act come into play. But original owners, it's just a straightforward fact. But good enough, he has spoken about it. That's why I didn't want to delve into it any longer. Otherwise, all those things sold to them, the land could be revoked by the state governors, and they stand a danger to lose the property. Let's face the facts, sir.
It's not entirely so, with due respect. It's not entirely so.
I know, whilst I commend the leadership of the House and the chairman for coming up with this whilst I commend the leadership of the House, especially and the chairman, for coming up and being proactive on this committee, one must be quick to add that the incidence of abandonment, especially in Lagos where I come from, is such that it's really worrisome. Worrisome and premise on the fact that most of these abandoned properties are never maintained, and this leads to incident collapse of building that leads to loss of lives. We are discussing NNPC today. I have the Ministry of Education property at Hon.Kuye, a mammoth edifice there, suffering, and that will still go into serious decay that can lead to building collapse and loss of lives and property. And I think I pray that you widen your frontiers outside NNPC to all sorts of these structures in the interest of the state. I'm citing Ministry of Education, sir, in the Kuye. You know that property very well, so thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, sir. I remember very vividly. We know, sir, but the last time, sir, they were
comes to being by a fiat of the government, of the federal government now. Does that suffice such institution that comes by a mere fiat to supervise and oversight upon that institution that comes by an act and needed to be screwed? Thank you, sir. Did you get
with respect to this matter? Please, can we witness on both? Just going to start with let's start with the Ikorodu property. I told you that the committee received a petition by the landowners saying that this matter has been taken to court with respect to their claim to recover the land back from you. And we have been able to talk to them. I believe their representative is here. The representative of the family, are you here? Oh, yes. Please, can you come forward, please? The landowners family are supposed to be represented by yourself and Honorable Jimmy Benson, who happens to be the honorable representing the Ikorodu Federal Constituency. But he called me yesterday to take permission not to attend because he's on oversight responsibilities out of Abuja right now. But he said the other person will be here. Please introduce yourself to the members of the committee, please.
The chairman, sir, and the honorable member of the committee. My name is Hon.Kuye Adhoc-Committee from Ikorodu, and I'm here representing His Royal Majesty Oba Engineer Bashiru Aremu, the Shokumadi of Ipakodo Ikorodu, on their landed matter in Ikorodu Ibishi area. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
You are representing the
Oba of Ikorodu, Oba Engineer Bashiru Aremu, the Shokumade of Ikorodu, Ipakodo, in Ibishi, Ikorodu local government. Thank you.
Without preempting our discussion, I just want to ask whether there is any instrument, whether he has any instrument, document, authorizing him to represent his subject. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, sir.
If there is no instrument, then probably we should just put it on oath.
Mr. Chairman,
Thank you.
An addendum. You've just said, sir, that the barrister in question is Sobio in question, sir, is here representing that family, the royal family from Ikorodu, with our own honorable member, Honorable Jimmy Benson. Yes. And on honor, by virtue of the fact that Honorable Benson is involved in this matter, I think you should allow him to continue his discussion. That's my posit.
Just for the information of the committee, they actually submitted the petition on behalf of the family. And even the matter in court, they submitted all the suit and the claim that they have in court. They submitted himself and Honorable Jimmy Benson. And I believe that because our colleague has said that they will be representing the family, I think on the honor of that our colleague, we should allow him to stay and not put him on note yet. Exactly. Thank you very much.
Actually, I work for the KBC and the family as a surveyor. And he approached and brought up the matter that they have some landed properties that they have been given to Radio Nigeria then. And they have been on this matter for a long period of time. And I said, well, it is better for them to write a letter to the chairman of the committee on abandoned property in respect of barrister Honorable Hon.Kuye, and which they did. The first letter they wrote, they actually appealing to the NBC, and this is not even their first letter. They've written one that they showed me before, and I said, okay, this one is going to be a letter of, not really petition, but it stands as a petition, and to the chairman. And the letter reads, appeal for the release of parts of land acquired by the Nigerian Democratic Corporation of Nigeria from Shekumadi family of Ipakudu, Ikurudu, Lagos State in 1962. And we look at the said land. It's about 98 hectares of land, which by mere looking at, not even up to 30 hectares of the land are being fully utilized or used by the Broadcasting Corporation. And we even have Frcn, Voice of Nigeria, on the land presently. And some of the land also have the guest house, guest house of the staff, and some residential quarters there. So, and we did the survey, that's what we got out of the survey, 89.88 hectares. And the family are now looking at it, 89 yes, hectares, sir. Hectares? Yes, sir. So, they are actually appealing, because when he came into throne, there is nothing, even the palace that is using presently, if you can do some inspection, you will see that it has been an old palace. So he now said he want to actually use those lands for provision of befitting palace for the Oba, provision of mosque, community hospital, library, technology, and health center, less privileged home, community school and recreation center, and community hall. So they are appealing through the committee chairman for the sum of 24 hectares of land. And they said all these need to be acquired because of there was no available land space. Since I ascended the throne of my father's land as Shekumadi of Ipakudu, I will be grateful if our request is granted and given approval. So that is the letter D, KBC, and supported with some document dated 25th of July 1962. Acquisition of land for the NBC, and they actually acknowledged the receipt of the letter 2000 and paying the sum of then £22.500 in 1962. So the committee actually replied the letter, and the cabinet also received the letter that the committee is looking at the matter and they will be addressed accordingly. So lastly, there was a letter again inviting the cabinet for this present meeting, and he actually mandated the committee, like the chairman rightly said, the House member representing the Kurutu, but unfortunately it's not here, and I'm their surveyor, so the cabinet said that she also is an old man. If he's to come here, definitely he's going to stay maybe 2 nights, and after the meeting, but he has given us, and he also has a person representing the constituency, so he gave him the power and the honor to represent the outcome of the meeting. Thank you, sir.
And then what you are, who you are representing, and then I can take it. Mr. Chairman, sir. Yes. Can I continue, sir?
Okay. Yes.
Raise your hand, right hand.
I, Hon.Kuye Adhoc-Committee, hereby affirm
to this oath
that
the evidence I shall give shall be the truth,
shall be the truth,
the only truth,
and
nothing but the truth.
and nothing but the truth.
So help me God.
So help me God.
So we sign.
I want to start to say that I sympathize with land-owning families in Lagos.
Because you are one of them.
This is premised on the fact that severally their lands had always been taken for public interest. And over time, these families had since expanded. They keep going in size and what have you, such that there is need for these families to be made good in the ancestral home. The land in question in Ikorodu, I know that land. I schooled in Ikorodu. I went to U College in Ikorodu. And I know that that land is something close to being moribund. I don't know if the VON has a plan of expansion for their activities, but if there is no any plan for expansion of their activities, I want to pray that the families should be allowed the use of the land for further expansion. I'm not holding brief for Engineer Shotonwa. He was a former civil servant in the state. He has started the state meritoriously before going back home to be the royal father of Sekumade Botekodu. And I think that it is only befitting that the monarch has a befitting palace and not operating from his personal residence. So in view of the aforementioned, sir, and in the interest of a working relationship between VON and the community, I strongly appeal, admonished and pray that they be given that small portion of land, 24 hectares, from the old 89, in the interest of the community and the people of that area. Thank you.
Agree to be settled out of the court. Out of the court, yes.
The good deeds of the Oba and requesting the ones in respect to this, the properties in questions. I think it will look like they are doing it on the personal ground. But for me to mean that this time, that I'm a person whom nobody I can sit and not been to the land, neither knowing the Oba himself. But from the narrative of the whole discussions, 170 hectares of land today, where you are occupying, I'm sure there is not more than 15 to 20% of the entire land size. In view of the fact that the Oba himself not wanted to himself as a person, as subject individual, but on behalf of the community, as a human, I am subjected to shortcomings and limitations upon what I'm saying, but I want to tell you as a clearer, it's a simple fact that Nigerians need kind of this assistance. I wish if it is my site, I will come up boldly to say this is exactly what we want. In view of this, I am still strongly in the side of my colleagues, my brothers from the south, that this request should be taken into consideration with a passionate ground. Thank you.
Works in Lagos State Ministry of Works, and I can attest to his integrity. So he's somebody that I can vouch for, and in view of that, I want to appeal to join my colleagues in appealing to VON that they should, on a compassionate ground, they should please accede to that request. Thank you.
To inspect the land when I received their report, and I noticed that a lot of the backside of that land have been encroached upon, and I believe that those that are encroaching upon it, they are not likely to stop any moment. You know, they are not likely to stop. They will continue to. But instead of causing this friction between the agency and the community, is there any way we can look at possible settlement out of court rather than just wasting taxpayers' money on litigation eventually the government will win, but is it a win that would be beneficial to the government when the community begins to disturb the peace of the staff there? Right. So I want you to tell the House and the committee whether a settlement out of court is possible. Thank you. Because I'm aware of the fact that, because I personally...
They settled. They are the ones that took us to court. They are the ones that will go to court and tell the judge that, please, we want to settle this matter out of court. It's not for us. They took us to court, and we are surprised that they are before the committee. Because they are supposed to go and sort out things. It is only when the court listens to their own reasons for settlement, then they will say, okay, we are giving you people opportunity to go and sort out these things. And at that time, the committee can even intervene. And as some honorable members have said, they are the ones that took us to court. And Mr. Chairman, sir, apart from them, he's aware that there is another family that are saying that they are not owners of the land, that they had a litigation some years ago, and they won them in Supreme Court. They have the judgment. So this case is a very complex matter, because even if we are settling issues here, the other family, they are not involved. It's as if we've not started. So they should do the first thing first. If they want this matter to settle, let them go to the court and say, please, we want this matter sorted out. Because we have in our custody the Supreme Court judgment that they had with the other family, which they said they are aware of it. So it will be premature, Mr. Chairman and other members, for us to say anything at this stage. Let them go and do the needful, sir.
Thank you, Honorable.
Thank you, distinguished Honorable Chair and distinguished Honorable members of this committee. I'm very happy that the distinguished chairman is a barrister himself. A family took us to court on this land. The matter is before the court. Frcn is not aware that the court has withdrawn the case and asked us to settle out of court.
No, the matter will
because
not be withdrawn from court.
Well,
they advise
okay.
settlement.
Okay.
Now settle, you come back and report to the court that these are the terms of settlement.
Okay. We are not
So it forms the basis of a consent judgment.
We are not aware that the court has requested us to sit down with the family that took us to court to settle. We have not yet been.
Give us time, let's sit down together, and then the court will adjourn accordingly.
Thank you. Thank you, distinguished Honorable Chair. This is the first time that I'm hearing that the parties can settle out of court. As far as we are concerned, this matter is under litigation at the moment. We have not been served with any notice. We have not been served with any request to settle out of court. This is the first time I'm hearing it. Thank you.
The lawyer in this matter?
The lawyer is not here because we never anticipated.
The last brief he gave to you at the last adjournment?
The last brief is that the matter is going to be. I have the legal advisor to Federal Radio Corporation of Nigeria. I will allow him to speak. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, other members.
I think we are all baffled, around here. Because a family took us to court, and then the same family is coming right in front of this house to make an appeal to us. We are baffled, because then there was no case for the court case. So, but what you are saying, sir, is not in the interest of anybody to continue any litigation for any, long period. It's not in anybody's interest. So therefore, I think this is where I'm going to stop. We are baffled, first of all, but it's not in the interest of anybody to continue any litigation. Thank you very much.
Mr. Adhoc-Committee, in view of what the DG has said, that he agrees with you that there is no time before judgment that parties cannot sit down to resolve the matter out of court. There is no time before judgment. Even on the date that the matter is fixed for judgment, parties, I'm coming DJ please, parties can come to terms and say, okay, we have given evidence, but we feel that we can actually settle this matter before the judgment is pronounced either in favor of A or B. That is allowed in law. Having said that, our colleague who represents the federal constituency, Honorable Jimmy Benson, the chairman of Committee on Defense, I'm aware that he has intervened in the matter that you have talked about and brought all the parties together. I'm aware of that, which he told me. But that shouldn't be a hindrance. It's not that we want to resolve it right and now, but we just want to know whether your agency will be considering a settlement out of court, or it is impossible for you to settle with them. You rather prefer to keep on going to court and all of that and wasting taxpayers' money. That's what we want to know. DG now. Over to you. Like you have rightly said, it is not in anybody's interest to continue to go to court. They have said the same thing, that it is not in anybody's interest to go to court, and they are willing to withdraw. So we're just going to have a subcommittee of the few members that are here to go and sit down with the parties and find an amicable settlement to this matter. I so rule.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Chairman, and I just want to quickly chip in one thing. The family they are referring to testify against the family in court, and they have settled. And this is the KBC. That's the family issue. I'm not trying to enlighten you about that. Now, they wrote a letter to the chairman of this committee to find a way of coming in for amicable settlement, which the committee is doing now. And even a member of the House of Rep from their constituency has also intervened. I'm aware of that, and the chairman has rightly said that they have settled their own issue, but they now want to settle with the NBC and the Voice of Nigeria, and that's what it really matters now. So I will get back, and I know the KBC is ready to take any means of amicable settlement with the Radio Nigeria.
All right,
thank you, sir.
Meeting, I think I need to take us to memory lane so that we can understand the processes that Federal Radio Corporation of Nigeria took in the concession of the Ikeja land up to this moment. So can I continue, sir?
Go ahead.
In 2007, the then Director General of the Federal Radio Corporation of Nigeria constituted a committee on the training school, known as the Training School Revival Committee. This is with the view of reviewing the curriculum of the training school, set in motion a process of affiliation of the training school with a degree awarding university in order to enhance the training that the training school is giving, but most importantly, to source private investors to enter into a PPP agreement in order to develop the unused part of the land situated there through a build, operate, and transfer model, that is the BOT model. That was in 2007. Now the committee received so many proposals on that from 6 interested companies. They screened those companies, they interviewed their managements, and found that the proposal by one company called Interstate Architects as the most appropriate proposal, and they recommended that to the management of FRCN as the best proposal. But then after that, that particular company, Interstate Architects, could not come up with the needed finance in order to go ahead with the project. Because
I was just going to allow you to say whatever you want to say. But members are of the opinion that we only requested for documents. Okay. Those documents will speak to all these things that you are trying to tell us. You know, you have explained all of these things to us before at our last meeting. So what we need are just those documents, you know, that relates to all of these transactions. We'll look at it ourselves. And we'll come up with our resolution to have communicated with you, to sit with you over this matter. Therefore, Engineer Johnson, yeah, Federal Radio Corporation Training School, and the subcommittee headed by Engineer Ganil Johnson shall meet with the DG of Federal Radio Corporation to look at the transaction, the contract, and the transfer. Excuse me. We'll look at all the contract that transpired with respect to the land at Ikeja GRA, and we furnish back the Adhoc-Committee with the report of their findings on or before next week, Friday. I so rule. Martin Street. We constituted a subcommittee to look at that matter too, chaired by Honorable Larry Edun, right? This committee too will meet with Federal Radio Corporation of Nigeria, PIC, and come up with their resolution on the matter on or before Friday next week, with all necessary documents as it relates to that transaction, be submitted by PIC to the subcommittee as so ruled. You to go. Federal Radio Corporation can go now while we face PIC. Matter that we requested of you at the last meeting, the report of your updated list. Are they ready? Are they here? Please furnish the committee with that report. Can you take it, Clark? Can you get it for us? The updated, so we will now be making photocopies.
It's updated up to October.
October 2021.
Yes, sir.
We want you to be on record on it.
Yes, sir.
October when?
31st.
The committee by the Federal Executive Council resolution is in charge of sales of federal government assets. And just recently, we have read in the reports an agency created under the office of the Attorney General on sales of federal government assets again. Please, can you make a clarification for us? Because there seems to be a duplication. Who is in charge of sales right now? Please, can you talk to us about it?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and the mandate by the Federal Executive Council to lease federal government properties. And in the office of the Attorney General, I think the committee maybe is for the recovered assets. Those assets recovered and need to be disposed. I think the President gave the Attorney General the approval to dispose it of. But recovered asset only. So by extension, if
Not abandoned.
no, a recovered assets, sir.
Not federal.
No. But I think there is either division or department in the office of the Attorney General, Honorable Chairman, that is in charge of recovery, assets recovery, abandoned assets recovery, and their work stops there. I'm not.
Okay, establishing PIC, because that is the instrument that they have. Now they've only supplied, the only furnitures.
Do you have that?
We asked them to.
You see, the PIC, your designate, are you, what, how do you address you? Is it the secretary of the PIC, sir? You did say that you are empowered to lease or to sell. There are two different issues between selling and leasing. But in your submission, you did mention of lease. So I need.
When you lease for
99 years. It reverts back to federal government after 99 years.
Don't lease. It's like sales. Good. Yes, sir. That money, sir. I know. Mr. Chairman, sir. The fund so gotten from those sales, into which account do we pay such monies to? Is it to the CRF, Consolidated Revenue Fund, or where do you pay the proceeds from your lease to?
Yes, when the Federal Executive Council gave us approval, we were using commercial banks because this money is being collected in tranches. With the coming of TSA, the monies moved to TSA. And on concluded transactions, we moved the money to the CRF. So as at today, all monies have moved to CRF.
Chairman, sir, I want to pray that the organization avail this committee the movement of cash from TSA, from the bank to CSA to the final destination. That's on one part, sir. The second part that I'm so bothered about is that I know that we have so many government properties in Lagos State where I come from. And if a virtue of the Federal Executive Council sitting down here in Abuja, not knowing the status of some of my properties, for instance, will by fiat come up with PIC to sell our property into one account that I really don't know, I think it calls for serious investigation into all of such things. We in Lagos, we are very, very attached to our land. It's all that we have, for instance. Yes, it's all that we have. We have well over 26 million people in Lagos on a size of 3,577 square meters. Very small. And if some persons will now just sit down in Abuja, I don't have problem with the sales of those properties. But I think there must be an enabling law citing those that are selling that states that they are so empowered, they are well equipped in land and estate matters so that suffices for them to sell my property and say this go back to Lagos State. I know if there had been an existing law that put it in place, there must be a public hearing, for instance. Whilst myself, our royal father, everybody, all our sundries would have been invited, and we begin to ask that some questions, sir, that what becomes of these sales, what comes to the state, what goes back to the federal, and all sorts. So in view of the affirmation, sir, I want to sue this immediately that there is need for a serious perusal of the activities of this OIC. That is, I don't know if you know if it's not to the law, but that I know. I have been a legislator all my life, and I know that all some that will go into the CRF or that will go out of it should be backed by law and they be hacked of law. Thank you, sir.
Cash. Or movement of the money, not cash, money. So
how much have you given so far, by own estimate?
we have
No, because these are sales of assets throughout the country.
yes, sir.
Not just Lagos State.
We have so far here have evidence of the funds into CRF to the tune of 148 billion, 48 billion, 527 million, 337,868 naira 78 kobo were received from the treasury. They have seen the money, they have acknowledged the money, and they have received the money that is in CRF. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, honorable members, I can confirm this at Public Account Committee, where we invited them and the Accountant General of the Federation, who equally acknowledged all these monies and said that the money have been distributed to all the three, both the federal, state, and local governments, the 3 tiers of government. So,
in what parameter and what ratio?
It is law. It is there is an established ratio.
Established ratio by
yes,
years too.
But no, by law. By law. Okay, by law. And it's even constitutional, yes, by law. Yes, and you are aware of it. And the properties they are selling is not in Lagos alone.
I know.
They are selling throughout the federation.
I know.
They have sold almost all the properties at these people's GRE. Abi?
Jericho. Do they come in the same value and the same price? What do you sell in Lagos?
Definitely
and what
not.
You sell in Ibarapa, for instance? The same price. Yeah, so we have to look into some of these things. I'm serious, Mr. Chairman, here. This is
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, honorable colleagues. To ask one question regarding this issue of leasing or selling of properties, especially there are some properties which are under litigations, especially the properties from Sokoto, Rima Basin. I think what are you doing, or I want to know the position of those properties that are even sold in Katsina. I think there is some petitions in some other committees. I don't know what you are doing in handling such problems. Please, can you tell us how far you have gone with that problems? Thank you.
No, we don't have thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Bala, I'm the Honorable Abbas Adigun. I spoke with you a couple of times when you went to Ibadan. Remember, Honorable Abbas? And that time you are not secretary, but now we tell you are the secretary now. Pertaining to your state, apart from I'm from there, pertaining to your state, I hope you are updated everything now. Because what happened is that when we went there, we discovered that so many property has been sold, and there's still the name. I mean, when we went there, they said that oh no, this one has been sold, this one, but it's not updated. So by now, I'm sure that as of October, like you said, everything's updated now, right? Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman has to understand that those properties are on rent. We said, okay, Sokotorima, it means you don't need Pakistan state government have been plotted into plots and have been allocated to members of public, which left only the structures, the quotas available for federal government. And even the quotas are not under the control of federal government. So when we came back, we wrote a report and seek for approval. Approval was given to us and we offered the properties. We sold the properties to the sitting tenants of the properties. We knock at their doors. Yes, we lease them, sir. We lease, sorry. Okay. We lease them to the occupants. We knock at the doors whereby we come out. Sokoteri Mariba Base and Kasana, yes, sir. Yes, sir. So that is the history of that transaction. That is for Kasana, sir. When you go to Sokotorima today, sir, the whole perimeter fence have been taken over. Only small passage for the whole estate. We have seen all the properties. And at last, we were only able to come up with 3 that we slated for further investigation. Honorable Chairman, the former secretary of this my committee was the one that handled Ibadan. And he took the responsibility of investigating those properties. Investigating property is technical, sir. Even the day before yesterday, we spoke that we are concluding that investigation likely within this week. And today is Thursday. So by next week, by the grace of God, I will revert back with our findings, our conclusions. Sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Unfortunately, we didn't meet, but I was there, move around all the locations they gave us, our consultants. There are so many buildings, federal building in Ibadan. When you go, so many areas there. So now you are saying that you can only find 3. 3. They are not yet so 3, and that 3 still under investigation. I disagree with you because I can count. There are more than 50. So thank you.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman. We moved around Ibadan. We visited so many properties and a lot of group of companies. We entered all those compounds, we entered all those properties, and we asked questions. And that was what we were able to establish, Honorable Member.
Mr. Chairman.
But if there is any other property that is, according to you, available, we'll go and see it and
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, in addendum to what my colleague has just said about properties in Ibadan, I want you to go and do a thorough job in Ibadan and come back with the factual figures of those properties. That's it. All over your state. As I'm talking to you in my own constituency, in my own town, I don't know your relationship with these United properties. United properties are there, abandoned, obsolete now. Nothing was being done to it. And the building has continued to constitute a nuisance. And this is the first satellite health station in the whole of Nigeria. I don't know what you're doing about it. There are several of the buildings scattered all over your state like that. So please, if you can do more, so we'll be happy. Because it's not nice to see all these projects just going down the drain. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Honorable. And
yes, hold on. That such responsibility cannot just be carried out by fiat. There is need for an enabling law that will expand the scope of the activities of this committee or agency, if you like, and getting the specialized required personnel, QS, engineers, valuers, and what have you. And moving from there, sir, I want to equally add that there is need for a database from the various states of the federation, what we have as abandoned and their status. A database of all such. Like my place in Lagos, sir. You know too well, sir. You know I'm from Lagos too. On Victoria Island, we have virtually all the states of the federation have a liaison office facing the Atlantic Ocean. Kwara State, Kogi State, Sokoto State, all of them lined up facing the Atlantic Ocean. Now, gradually, sir, some of those properties, gradually, most of them are moribund now. That you have miscreants, woodlums, and what have you occupying them on Victoria Island. Whereas some are being transformed into hotels, Best Western, and what have you. So let's have the status of all this. That is the very first step in what we're saying. And for the whole state, sir. Okay, so. And is that where they are saying they see 3 properties from Ibadan? And that exactly is, Mr. Chairman, sir, that exactly is why I'm telling you that this committee, the responsibilities they are saddled with such enormous that calls for specialization.
Earlier correspondences in that regard, but the letter requested us to furnish information on government abandoned properties in FCT under our jurisdiction. We exchange conversation with the Secretariat, resulting to rescheduling of our visit, of our appearance, for the obvious fact that a record on abandoned property is not what we easily keep. However, they are kept as part of the normal record, so we needed to filter them out from our existing record. So we wrote to the Secretariat departments and agencies of the FCTA, and we got a response that we sent to you. Speaking stricto sensu, in FCT we currently do not have abandoned government properties, because the projects that we even marked, that we submitted in our letter of 2nd November 2021 cannot really be said to have been abandoned. We attach a schedule to the letter, sir. We have 4 projects listed in the letter. The first one is the Nigeria Cultural Center Millennium Tower, Abuja. This is a project that was conceived and awarded in 2005. Some amount were expended in it, but in view of the fact that the cost of this project has gone beyond our budget, what can easily be accommodated within our budget, consideration is being given to a multimodal source of financing. We just got a review, a recertification of the Bureau of Public Procurement, giving us the current cost to completion with the objective to go and source alternative source of funding to complete the project. Since the activities on the project is active and ongoing, we cannot class it as abandoned. The second project we listed is that of the National Library of Nigeria headquarters project. It's also in central area. This project has been taken over by the owner ministry, Federal Ministry of Education. It's no longer a project of the FCTA. The completion of NTA headquarters Abuja was also a project that was started in 1992. Its construction went on and on. Some portions of it were completed and are in use. NTA has taken over its project and is no longer a project of the Federal Capital Territory Administration. The final one is the prototype Federal Ministry building. Phase 3, please. Let's correct the phase to phase 3. It is the building behind the Ministry of Education. This was also awarded in 1992 to Mesa C&C Construction Company Limited. Actually, this has remained ongoing for long, but various funding options are being considered to ensure to embark on the completion of the project, especially in the face of rising need for office accommodation for ministries. At one time, it was considered that the Ministry of Agriculture should go and complete the building with resources that were being appropriated to them for acquisition of their own headquarters. But this had not been done. So, given that conversation on this particular project is also active and ongoing, we did not feel it could be considered an abandoned property. So it is in this light that we wrote back to this very esteemed committee that currently we do not have abandoned properties within our portfolio. This, however, without prejudice to the possibility of other MDAs in FCT having abandoned properties, for which, when the construction work is ongoing, we have responsibility to support the supervision, but do not belong to the FCT. This is our submission, please. Thank you, Honorable Chairman.
Colleague, I listened with attention to the submission of the representative of the minister, and I only want to be screwed to say what do we describe as being abandoned. If a project was initiated in 2005, 16 years ago, as if supposedly the projects were not initiated to serve specific social infrastructure or segment of the nation or the state. 16 years ago, and the project has not been completed, and do we still call that a work in progress? So I need to be screwed. The second question is this: what becomes of the structural integrity of these structures? If a structure is an ongoing for the first one was 60 years ago, even have those that have been there since 1992, and it's still an ongoing project, and yet we are not, it cannot be classified as an abandoned project. What becomes of the structural integrity of such projects? Thank you.
More particularly the Permanent Secretary. Mr. Chairman, sir. Would the benefits of the guests coming to us for this hearing, would I ask if you can help us and tell us the mandates of this committee, so that whoever is contributing should go along the line.
There was a panel, presidential panel set up under the office of the Vice President in 2017 or thereabouts, to look at all the state of projects, abandoned projects throughout the Federation. They came up with a report. Are you aware that there was a presidential panel set up under the office of the Vice President committee, yes, to look at abandoned projects and abandoned properties of the federal government throughout the Federation? Are you aware? If you are aware of what they define to be an abandoned project or an abandoned property of the federal government? And if you are aware, we want you to tell us what they recommended and defined as abandoned project or property of the federal government.
Honorable Chairman, Honorable Mayor, I thank sincerely for those insightful issues raised. I think the crux of it is on what constitutes an abandoned project. Just as the chairman mentioned, I am aware on the constitution of the federal government, of the Presidential Committee on Abandoned Federal Government Projects. I do not have handy what the recommendations were, but as reading through literature, I am aware that an abandonment of a project will occur at any stage. And a project will be said to be abandoned if it commenced but never got to the finishing stage in order to derive its utility. However, a project that is initiated and commenced, even though its execution lasts beyond the time specified, may not necessarily imply an abandonment. And it is in this perspective that I want to respond to some of the concerns raised. Now, the issue of the Nigeria Cultural Center, as rightly reported, started 2005. It has been ongoing. Thank you, sir.
When a project is initiated for a particular purpose, and that purpose has become necessary or superfluous, is initiated, and 10 years after the time span within which it is supposed to have been completed, 10 years after, it's not been completed, the committee recommended that it's an abandonment. It's an abandonment. Lastly, any project, any property that has not been budgeted for in the last 10 calendar year budget year. And some of them, although you didn't put, the completion period of some of them here, it suffices to say that the project commenced in 1992. Is that many years now? 29 years. I don't think the federal government will initiate a project that is expected to last for 29 years. For what purpose? So it's actually abandoned. But that will help you in your further comments, answers to our questions. Maybe you now want to go back and look more deeply at your record and see those projects that are actually, because we have them all over the place. This cultural one is the one in front of by post office, right? Is it where? Central area where?
Central Bank, where you have the tower. Yes, sir.
That's the place I'm talking about, where you have those markets on the side.
No. It's not that one, Your Excellency. It's the one close to the National Mosque.
Close to Central Mosque?
Yes.
Okay, this one.
Yes. Yes.
No, I'm not talking of the library.
Yes, sir.
I'm not talking of the library.
No, that's the Cultural Center. Yes. It's the one close to the, it's in between Ecumenical Center and the, not exactly.
Where those, all these printing press are here?
No, sir.
Where is that?
That's area 10.
Yes, sir. No, that one is UTC. It's a market. Not that one, sir. This one we are talking about is very close to us here. In fact, during National Day celebration, you have the lights on it with the coat of arms. Yes, sir. Thank you, the Honorable Chairman, Honorable Members. Thank you for the insightful perspectives you brought into it. Also, there are various conjectures on the definition of what an abandoned property is. However, when a property has really not outlived its usefulness, the purpose for which it is constructed, and conversation is still actually going on is how to realize that purpose. We may not realize statistically classify it as abandoned. For instance, on the basis of budget, the Nigeria Cultural Center still has a budget in 2021. And even in its current state, is being used by the parking space area, is being used by Central Bank of Nigeria. And they are paying for the use of that place. Why has it not been completed? The cost to completion of this project is more than what we can lift out of our budget within a short period of time. What is the perspective? We said, let us use PPP to complete this project. And actually, we have received expression of interest. But we want to make it an international competitive bidding process so that the best of us will emerge and be considered. That's why we received the certificate of the estimated cost to completion from the Bureau of Public Procurement just a couple of weeks ago. So in this light, we have appropriation this year in 2021 budget. Conversation is very active on it. Some national governments have even indicated interest to partner with Nigeria on that project. Is the use purpose overtaken by event? No, it is still a center. It's a multi-purpose center that will serve various entertainment and hospitality needs in FCT. That's why we cannot realistically classify it as abandoned. But it's only challenged by funding. That's the situation of that one. Yes, sir. The library, as I did. Yes, actually it has been taken over, as I said, by the owner ministry, Federal Ministry of Education. They will be able to speak better on the library project. The completion of NTA quarters, part of this building is currently being in use. Some parts were completed. Not all of them have been completed. That's why it will be good to speak with NTA to know the status of the project and what their projection is in taking the project forward. They are using part of it, and we cannot really say the project is abandoned. In connection with the Phase 3 Secretariat, the Phase 3 has 2 buildings on it. The first one is completed. The second one is at the back. I remember a few years ago when I was in the Office of Head of Service, conversation was very active on it. That what do we do? Since the cost to completion of this project is beyond what we can easily generate, various options were being considered. It was then the idea of Ministry of Agri, who was then in need of a more spacious accommodation to take over the project, came up. I don't know where that discussion ended. But if because it has not been budgeted for some years ago, more than 10 years now, will qualify it as abandoned, right? But in terms of the usefulness, its use purpose, is its usefulness outlived? No. MDA still require offices, and the timely completion of this project will serve. Because currently, Honorable Chairman, some MDAs are renting properties. Some majority of MDAs don't have enough of office accommodation. So rather than paying rent outside, it would be better if resources could be generated to complete this structure, modify it to the present form, because the design of 1992 may not be relevant, may not be fit for purpose now. And to speak directly to the question of how much has been paid out on the project, I don't have the information here. But the information we provided is the contract sum. Thank you very much, Honorable Chairman.
The PIC, you have PIC implementation of the Presidential Implementation Committee on sales of federal government assets
Of federal government houses in Abuja, not properties, sale of government. Their function then, when it was conceived in 2005, was to dispose of all those houses of government that were classified as non-essential. And these were houses occupied by civil servants, either in that do not belong to certain category of offices or agencies that were exempted in that circular or approval of government on the sale of government houses. In terms of completion of the assignment, the large proportion of the assignment was concluded. However, there will still be residual issues or collateral issues that will have arisen or are arising from the sale. We still have such collateral issues, and that is why the office has not been dissolved. Ordinarily, given the extent to which they have performed on that assignment, the committee should have, because it's an ad hoc committee.